what I'm trying to say is that ownership is always a sticky subject, it's not necessarily a failure on the part of the Sharia advisors when Sukkuk, when ownership in Sukkuk is questioned. We obviously have a lot of lessons to learn. This is a very new process, the insolvency process for the bankrupt Sukkuk. But I think one of the really clear lessons is the need for more and more due diligence. It turns out in many cases that the insolvencies have occurred not as a result of any Sharia consideration, but simply as a matter of business. It's a poor investment. Recently there was I don't want to go into it, but in any case, due diligence on the business side, there was when Sukkuk first came out, well, everyone thought, this is great, we've got a solution to the problem that we have with our Islamic treasuries. We can't hold bonds, we can't hold treasury bills. How do we prove to our regulators that we're being responsible with our money and that we have fixed income instruments? So Sukkuk filled that void very nicely. But they're hybrids, ultimately, and they're untested. And so there's a lot to be learned about them. And oftentimes, unfortunately, we all know that the learning process can be a painful and difficult one. And it looks like that will be the case with Sukkuk as well. Certainly there have been some great successes as well, but again, people need to be more careful about it. Let's talk about the secondary market for Sukkuk. Sukkuk, in terms of volume, probably all the Sukkuk in the world today in circulation or that people are holding could be traded in New York in a matter of 5 minutes. I mean, given the volume of the conventional bond market, that's, if we consider Sukkuk to be a part of the bond market, that's the percent. I mean, that's the size of this market. It's tiny. It's minuscule. But again, for us, it's really important for our Islamic banking treasuries. It's very important for our investors in order to be able to balance portfolios and manage risk. We need instruments like this. Is Sukkuk, the ideal the instrument? Maybe, maybe not. We're learning. But Sukkuk, at some point, we will build up a critical mass of Sukkuk, and people will start actually trading these things, mixing and matching tenors and yields in the same way that they do in the bond markets of the world. Right now, because they're so far and few between, treasuries get them, they buy them, they stand in line to buy them, and then they hold them. They don't want to let them go. They're so important to their businesses. But at some point, we will have that critical mass, and people will start thinking about, okay, maybe I can get better value from my Sukkuk if I trade with my neighbors over there, and so on and so forth. What happens when that happens? We've not given a much thought to that process, unfortunately. And aside from the economic issues, which obviously will take the lion's share of that consideration, but there are also serious Sharia issues. Everyone is familiar with the tensions. You used the word tensions in your Omar, in your presentation. Tensions between GCC investors and Malaysian investors. There are some differences in philosophy, in the jurisprudence of the two systems, let's say. But we really haven't delved deeply into those differences. And if we're going to have a viable and real secondary market for the trading of these instruments, we will have to confront these issues head on. And a number of bodies have attempted to deal with some of these issues. Bodies, by that I mean, for example, the Malaysian regulator, whether it's Bank Negara or the Securities Commission, I'm not sure, but they've worked out some formulas and set up some guidelines, and other regulators around the world have as well. Likewise, AOFI, the Auditing and Accounting Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions, AAOIFI, has also done work on several of these issues. But the tensions need to be resolved before real trading can take place. So, for example, some Sukkuk, as I mentioned, are hybrids. Some of them look more like equity, others look more like debt, depending on the kind of Sukkuk that they are. And I won't go into the technical stuff, but there are different ways that each one of them needs to be traded or exchanged. And unless those are coordinated, and unless everyone understands the rules, and they can be quite complicated, we're going to have a lot of confusion in the marketplace. So much confusion, in fact, that the marketplace, people will leave the marketplace. Let me say that. It won't develop the way that it needs to. So these are issues that we need to deal with, and we probably need to deal with them sooner rather than later. I think probably one good step in this direction is being taken by Reuters, Thomson Reuters. Our good friend Rushdie Siddiqui several years ago came up with the idea that Islamic investors needed a benchmark, so he went to Dow Jones, knocked on their doors, and found that they actually answered and listened to what he had to say. And the result was that the Dow Jones Islamic Market Indexes came into existence and have flourished ever since. Rushdie has now moved on, and this is not a plug for Rushdie Siddiqui. I'm just saying that there are some people of vision in our industry. He's one of them, and his idea now with Thomson Reuters is transparency, or his theme, let's say, is transparency. The industry badly needs to show itself if it's going to be viable, if it's really going to achieve acceptance in the wider market. It's essentially a rules-based business. Sharia is rule. That's the rules base that we work with. People need to understand that, whether they're in Hong Kong or Chicago. And the way forward for us is through sharing and exchanging information. So this too is something which requires consideration. How much time do I have? Have I run over?
5 minutes.
I have 5 minutes? Okay. So that's kind of Sukkuk, and where Sukkuk are going. Let me add one more thing on the Sukkuk discussion, and that is that many of the high-profile Sukkuk defaults have taken place as a result, as I pointed out earlier, of poor business decisions. These have had nothing to do with Sharia considerations, with the structuring of the Sukkuk, with the way that they deliver and do what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately, the press sort of picks up the idea that, well, Sukkuk are being defaulted, therefore there's something wrong with the Sukkuk, there's something wrong with Sharia finance, and so on and so forth. So this is something that we collectively, as industry practitioners, need to, yes, we need to ride it out, but we need to be